Hi everyone, I'm back from last week from my last video talking about autoimmune diseases and my story with lupus and my mental health as well. And I wanted to also I wanted to create this video to give an update on what's been going on with that and some more things I have learned recently that I have begun to consider much more than I used to. And because some of these things I have learned before, but never really applied them to my life or have really let them sink in on the inside until even as just as late as this week. So about a couple of days ago, a couple of days, I think it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, I had gone to the dentist, and and then as I explained in the last video, the lupus with all the blisters that I have on my hands, on my face, and my chest. These blisters also appeared in my mouth and somewhat down my throat. Mine also, I should mention, my nose and my ears. And so I went there, and I knew it was gonna be kind of interesting because I have never had this many sores or this not much trauma in my mouth going to the dentist. Never have. So this I was anticipating something very interesting. So I went and told them, okay, I have lupus, and I did covering from a flare, so it's gonna look a little different. They looked in there and they're saying that they saw small bruises, significant, pretty significant bruises on behind both of my back molars. They even found another like pustule under my tongue, which popped mid cleaning, and they're having me go to the dentist in 3 months instead of 6 months, just to make sure that all this heals fast enough. Not fast enough, it heals, and that no infections can occur from that because I'm also on two immunosuppressants, and because of that, that means you're gonna it's more likely for me to get infected, and that can be very problematic. So that's another thing to think about. I also have previously had gingivitis, which got a lot better. I haven't, but now in this case of what's going on, no idea. My hygiene, I had to stop brushing my teeth with a toothbrush for a couple of weeks because it hurt so much and it was bleeding all the time whenever I tried to brush my teeth and would floss. There were times where I didn't brush my teeth. I used the Q-tip my mouth, and then I flossed because the brush was just too harsh. I couldn't even do it. And I have an electric toothbrush. I did it while it was off. Didn't work. I went switched to a regular toothbrush, and even a new one, it was still too harsh. The gums were that sore and that sensitive. So that was an experience right there. And I had to eat blended foods because they hurt that much. And and harder foods would literally pop the pustules that were in my mouth. Sounds kind of gross. It's just gross. I'm so glad I'm way past that. And I thank God for that because that was a time to go through all of that. And I still right now even have a couple sores in my mouth, but they're much better because I can actually eat solid foods now. So that's good. I just have to be careful with acidic foods or really, really like hot foods. Or even cold too. But like really, really hot ones because they can actually um burn me and cause another blister. Since this is it's a blistering type of lupus, or you could say another way of saying it is bullous systemic lupus erythematosus, because of the blisters anywhere that the sun is shining. I also did get exposed to the sun recently, so my face does have some little blisters or pustules right now, but I've stayed out of it now, so it's getting better. It's just like it's still kind of shocking and so like weird how fast my skin reacts to the sun. And I don't understand. Well, not understand. Don't understand. We still don't know how it got so severe from 2 years ago or even last year because nothing like this happened last year. I had sensitivity, of course, but never pustules. If there was a rash, it was only like a little pink or a little bit small bumps. Nothing to this level, like nothing to this level. So this is still a new experience. But I'm so glad I went to the dentist, figured those things out, I have my first full cavity. Oh my gosh, first full cavity. Which they good the good thing is that I don't need a filling. I don't need to have like a whole drilling or anything like that. Thank goodness. So I'm gonna go back in for that. And other than that, my rest of my teeth are actually pretty good. And I just have to keep my hygiene up a lot. And in this case, the extra meticulous. Maybe do more than just brush my teeth twice a day, or floss twice a day. May have to be 3 times a day. I'm on a new mouthwash and a different toothpaste. I have to like just be extra careful. So that's just not because that's what we concluded, and it's like there's nothing else to do other than do those things, like and also watch what I'm eating. I'm already supposed to be changing my diet. My diet has changed, and even though I still have sugar and gluten in that diet and some other like processed stuff, I need to take those out. I can still have fruits, and I can still have bread, but it has to be specific. But what they recommend is specific breads or specific brands. So uh, that's a journey right there, and also becoming more plant based in general, because really what the science shows and what has been shown even without this official science, what is shown is that plant based diets, or like diets that have a lot of plants in it, of all of them, like vitamins and minerals, are diets that help with healing the body and restoring your cells. Because as with all autoimmune diseases, it has to do they all cause cell damage. So that's another big one right there. Now I'm realizing that I should be eating much more vegetables and fruits, which I do like them, but I was not eating enough before. Definitely was not. And too many of the processed foods, for sure. Too much of the high sugars, of the bad sugars for you, and too many fried foods. I actually had to stop eating most of like a good amount of fried foods since beginning of 2025, because my body does not respond well to the oils, the canola oil or the palm oil, or the vegetable oil. Even that's problematic for me too. We actually stopped using vegetable oil since last year, or at least for me, and switched to olive. And we usually always have olive oil, but now we're almost strictly olive oil. And we even tried sunflower oil for me, just because I was reacting pretty terribly to the vegetable oil or anything fried in the oils. I would stay away from the fried foods and go for baked or steamed or boiled. Grilled was actually okay, and the grilled was good too. Or let's say smoked. We almost never eat smoked meat, foods, but that's what I went for. If it was fried, especially if it was fried meat, I just didn't even eat it. I would beginning of 2025, um I would eat. remember eating a steak that was actually baked. It was baked in oil, but it was oil, and my hands swelled up the next day. Very bizarre. And this was about a few months after my diagnosis, and also about a month, well, actually, remember, a month and a half or 2 months after my suicide attempt. So my body was still adjusting to the new flares, and all the weight I lost and everything was going on. So my body was like reacting to stuff very, very easily. So if I ate anything that was super processed or fried, I was gonna feel it the next day. That was a scary one right there. So I was limited to fresh foods, or like Greek yogurt. I love like Greek yogurt with berries, honey, and I was eating, like, let's say if we went out to eat or something like that, I got sushi, or if I ate meats, did not eat the fried meats. I ate only like the baked or the boiled meats. And so that taught me a lot about what my body reacts to and what I've had to change. And unfortunately, that means things are more expensive. So for my mother, it's been more expensive, and because I don't have a job outside the house, I don't have a job anymore. I mean, well, I do have a job, but I don't have a paying job right now. So that was harder. And then I definitely didn't have a paying job. Now I do something. Now I do work. It's just that we don't have payroll just yet, but we're on our way to that. And I try to do DoorDash when I can, and I maybe to get some things for myself. But other than that, I am dependent on my mom. So yeah, that's something that is concerning, and I'm low key upset about. But I also know that God will provide, and that we're gonna be okay because we have been okay, and He's already taken me through a whole bunch of other things far more dangerous and far more costly than right now. And so I have to remember that. I have to make sure to remember that no, He's been there before. He's still got you. He's not leaving or anything like that. And you do remember exactly what was done in the past. And even the time in which you did try to take yourself out, he still saved you, and he still took care of you and brought you through all those different things and protected you from things. Are you protected me from things that I probably didn't even know was there or was going or could happen. My mother also reminds me that of certain things, like reminds you that look, you need to heal, you need to take your time, and it's okay to rest, especially if you're sick. Because I was sick and I was even trying to do what I do to DoorDash while I was sick. I actually had to stop doing it because I was doing it in the daytime with the sun. So that was we stopped it there. And also, DoorDash makes money. It does, but for a college student like me who's not in another job, oh my gosh, I was thinking anytime I can get to do DoorDash, I want to do DoorDash. But it's also I have to realize, you also it's actually okay to not make money. You don't have to always make money. And especially if what you're doing to make money is actually hurting you. Not because DoorDash hurts, but because but for me, in my case, I have a condition in which I can't even go outside without extreme protection or without going strictly at night. So there's that too. So I'm learning not to be anxious about it and just trust God before what's going on as time goes by. And here and there, I feel like I do actually feel like I am hearing from Him more, or I'm seeing, like, I don't know if this is the best way of saying it, signs from Him that things are going to be okay. I do get help from other family members as well. Um, Either they either send me something like a gift, or I actually work with a couple of people. So I've also gotten some cash that way because I actually work with them for their actual job. So that's actually been really, really, really nice. So those are ways in which God has provided, and I selfishly feel so much better about it because I'm doing it by working. It's okay if it's just a gift, but if for my self-esteem, which I know is another stronghold for me, I feel better if I worked for it or if I did something in exchange. Or, like, I guess I feel like an adult in a way, and I think it's because I partially tied my worth, or tied my how much I deserve help to what I do. Because in my mind I'm thinking, okay, so in my mind I'm thinking, oh, you serve, as Christians you serve. Not only that, you shouldn't. The way it was, this is not even a good way of thinking. I always felt embarrassed to ask for help or embarrassed to ask for something if I knew I couldn't reciprocate. Now I know that. Now I know that type of thinking can be detrimental. Obviously, you shouldn't be asking for things all the time and just like trying to take from everybody else and never give. But to never ask for help, or to even reject help if it was offered because you're scared that you can't pay them back, or you're scared that you're taking from them, even if they're the ones offering it to you. That's that is damaging. Can be damaging for you over time. And so I'm learning not to do that anymore. And in my case, I almost have no choice but to take the help, because I know because things are a lot easier if I just take the help. And so I thank God for that. And then even with that, I still have ways in which I help the people who help me, and we do work together because we are genuinely working together in a professional manner. So, which that can be weird in and of itself, but for me, it's actually been pretty good. So I thank God for that. And um, yeah, there's also some things I have recently learned and recently gotten used to and started to accept. And and I hope to soon get to a point where I fully embrace it because I know that these things are a blessing. This time to heal, to rest and heal has been a blessing. I sometimes feel bad for sleeping a lot, but I actually need to sleep. And anytime my mom asking, or like basically reminding me, or not asking, more like reminding me, like, look, you need to take a break, you need to rest, especially if you're not feeling well. My mother, she works really, really hard as well, and all my parents too. All my parents too, and they what I see, especially here because I live with my mom, is what happens when you work a lot but don't get enough rest, because that happens to her too. And it's like it's sad to watch, but I'm also thankful I have that example of someone who works hard and someone who is diligent, and also someone who, despite even though they work hard and diligent, they are aware of. Okay, sorry about the pause. My brother had to come and do something, but we're all good right now. So, yeah, those are the things that I am trying to embrace, especially as I'm going into the Bible more, listening to more teachings, and going to church and also praying a lot more, trying to really ask God for understanding, but also for patience as things keep going on. Because now instead of praying, like ask, praying in a way in which I don't really know I'm asking for, or I used to ask for things. That's number one, and then I actually ended up stop asking for things, and because I had this idea in my head that if I'm supposed to have it, I would have had it already. And then I also got the idea that I probably don't have it because either I don't deserve it, or because I sinned. I did a sin in which God wouldn't give me what I want, and and in many cases it was actually some actually things that I genuinely needed. There were things that I tried to really work hard for, and I actually struggled to work hard for, because either I didn't do, and it has to do with school. I didn't really do well in school all the time, at least in college. I went from doing like A's and B's in high school down to like actually failing classes in college. Went from being an honor student to being a college student that was lazy at sometimes, worked their butt off on other times, and then even when and then either procrastinated because I prioritized my professional job in retail over the schooling. I was actually doing really good at the job, but not doing so well at the schooling. And then I come back home from the job where they're working 4 hours, and it even became 8 hours, like 3 to 4 times a week on a regular basis. And I would instead try to wind down instead of go straight to the schoolwork, or at least to wait an hour or two. That was not smart. Or I would cook. I would even cook food for the family, but it also was this technically a distraction from what I was doing. I mean, I was helping my mom because she's a single parent because parents are divorced. So I was like, "Oh, you're helping your mama. You're helping mama, yeah." And then I also using it as an excuse to not do the schoolwork, or to not just that, not face what I was actually dealing with emotionally, not face some of the issues that I had going on, because my goodness, there were issues mentally, internally, that even if I spoke about it a little bit, I never really completely understood them, and it didn't really sink in how bad it actually was. And that's why even when I had a therapist, or I spoke to a therapist for like about a month or something like that or more, I still could not get down to the root of these issues. And I was even aware of some of these issues up until end of last year. Well, right after my attempt, all of last year and even up until the last few months. Now it's like I'm at the point where I think I know almost all the issues. I'm pretty sure there's so like not issues, but all of the strongholds. I'm pretty sure there's maybe a couple other strongholds that I either haven't realized or have not realized that are also there. But I'm very much been aware of several that I was not considering years ago. So that's been a big deal. And then I still gotta go to back into therapy, and who knows what's gonna come out of that after just having the revelation of all the other things that I've struggled with, and a lot of it like with the depression, anxiety, which I knew of, but now I'm way more aware of all of the things I was anxious about. There's so much more things, so many more things than I thought. Anxious about money, anxious about school, anxious about the fact that about my health, anxious about the future, um, and where we live, because I live in a great country. I live in a great country with a lot of freedoms, and despite that, the whole world is facing something very very life changing. It's felt everywhere. And even the most privileged, I mean, you can see, even the most privileged people, the people with the most amount of money, the most amount of freedom, they are also feeling it too. So it's going from down, and you have the poorest of the poorest dealing with the bulk of the changes and are suffering for it, and or having to deal with it, and I have to like remember to pray for them as well, and also that's where serving comes in. I used to volunteer far more than I do now. I want to get back into to volunteering, especially as it was at a food bank I was volunteering at, because sometimes I realize that I think about a lot of people in other countries and what they go through, forgetting that we actually have a lot of people in our country that are struggling pretty badly right now. And even I would say even my own parents have actually experienced to an extent some of those struggles. And they may not have been the poorest, or they may not have been through like the worst diseases, or they may not have, you know, um seen war, but they have lost people in accidents. They lost people to disease. They have experienced being completely alone with no one to rely on. They've had that. They have experienced being stretched so far, so thin at their job with no rest in sight, being injured on the job, not knowing when, if even a couple of even a few months where they didn't know if they could even pay the next mortgage bill. They were able to, but they didn't know from before because of all the things that were going on. They've experienced things with things with things that a lot of people have gone through. They have seen some harsh stuff. So I and now I'm like more like the more and more now I'm like remembering. Yeah, you're in a family which you have people who know this is like. My mom's from a country who that is going through a whole lot right now, and they have a country that's gone through wars, a country that's gone that not and it's even right now they're not necessarily in a war, but there's civil unrest, which is why the family here has not gone back to to that country for that reason. And so I have to not have to. I hope to keep remember and to keep on remembering that there are people everywhere that are struggling and people everywhere that are going through something, and to pray for them, and also to serve when I can. The only other way the way I am serving right now currently is at my church. So it's more like serving the people at the church, but that is one way in which I've gotten back into serving, and I've been doing it for a few months now, and I've been enjoying it, and I'm like, this is really good. And our church is still trying to find ways to welcome more people and to financially support other churches, because they also are a church planting church, and they even have serving week this month for June. So I have to go look into that. And they also serve throughout the year. So that's also like a great opening to get back into service, into volunteering. And so apart from um the new things and new revelations when it comes to my relationship with God, and um how my faith has been strengthened, and how I become more patient, and how much more peaceful it's been now, and happier I feel. Happiness is not necessarily the goal, but I know it's really joy, but I kind of feel both much more right now. And even if I have bouts of anxiety, they go away really quickly. Because then I remember, God's got you. God is there. It's very quick. And also like the verses now that I'm back in the Bible more, and I'm listening to when people talk about the Bible, they are popping up in my head more often. The worship songs are back. And so, something I never listen to worship songs is that I tend to listen to a couple of the genres, the EDM and some other ones, classical music, um, opera, and like indie music. And that's something I have to work on, and I'm being convicted of in terms of listening to that more than listening to worship music. Those it's not necessarily even it's like the genre is one part of it. Though the music though that I'm listen to, it's like therapy in a way. And it's not a sin, but I also know that there probably were parts, or there are times in which it probably was idolizing the music. I was idolizing those things because the music that I was listening to was a band-aid, and it kind of still is a band-aid for me for when I was extremely depressed and extremely anxious. I didn't feel like I could have an outlet, and I was still going to church at this point. So I was actually still there were even times where I was listening to worship music, and I was listening to that music, and the what say, but that music was what calmed me down the most, or that was my escape from all the things in my head, because my brain is always going. And so what took me out of it? Either going to church on that Sunday, and then the rest of the week it was whatever I was doing and the music. So I something that I got to work on is pulling back on that, because then I know for a fact I did idolize that music, and I've had to actually pray to God and ask for forgiveness on not just on idolizing other things. I don't know if I said about the music yet. I may have to even pray about that too. But idolizing other things, for example, money, and it's not even I was spending on like clothes and fashion. It's when like I wanted money so bad, so that I felt like I was in control of something. I wanted a job so bad, because I felt like, oh, if I didn't have a job and if I wasn't making money, then I was a burden to my mom, because then I would have to depend on her. That's what actually really messed me up when I quit my job for my health, because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job anymore. And idolizing, I would say even idolizing anxiety and my problems, because I remember that it's been said before about other Christians and leaders that worrying is worshiping your problems. I've been doing that for years. And as someone who ruminates a lot, I daydream a lot, but I also ruminate. And a lot of the daydreaming is actually is supposed to be used as a distraction from the rumination, because the rumination is just me thinking about the problems nonstop. And that hurts. So what do I do instead? I daydream. Or I listen to music. And because I wasn't delving into my hobbies, drawing, crocheting, those two in particular, because I'm an artist as well. I basically abandoned those two for years. It wasn't until 2024 that the beginning of 2024 that I got back into crocheting, because I started going to the Christian club at my university, and we were doing a fundraiser, and our girls group, our girls like separate Bible study apart from the co-ed group, decided to do crocheting, and because a lot of us actually could crochet, so that was that time at that club was actually very, very good for me, very, very good. And I've tried to contemplate going back. I kind of stopped because I wanted to get more into the church I went to, and some of the young adult service is the same day as the church group service. When I realized now that I actually could technically do both in a way. I just have to plan it right. But I haven't been back. I kind of haven't been back to certain things because ever since I left and took a huge break from last year. And so, yeah, I literally abandoned crocheting and drawing. And I was not practicing the gifts that God gave me, which I know my greatest gifts are creative gifts. I abandoned them. I didn't have any interest in them. I had very little interest in a lot of things. And so that's something that I've gotten back, that I've tried to get back into. The crocheting, I haven't recently, but I still got the yarn. I'm still interested. The drawing, though, that's for sure I've gotten back into. And so I'm glad I do that now. And I'm still finding more ways to practice it and to even use it. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. And so, um, yeah, those things that I'm trying to remember what I was talking about. Is I'm going back to drawing, and I'm still looking for ways, or looking for ways in which I can use drawing to glorify God. So I'm still on that path right now, and I'm just glad to be back to doing it because that has helped a lot, and I wish I never abandoned that. So that's something that I'm glad I'm back into doing, and as I end this now, I just want to also say that I say thank you to all of you who are watching and for listening to me yap about what I've been through and also what I'm still going through. And I hope that you guys enjoy your weekend. And hopefully that I hope that these videos can still be helpful for others and can be a way for you to hear somebody else who is going through some difficult, such as an autoimmune condition and mental health struggles. Since a lot of us have gone through these things, and a lot more people are getting sick and going through these conditions. And even as I mentioned earlier before, think about the food I was eating, because I'm realizing that and recognizing that food is a big factor in how our body works and functions and how we feel. Apart from the environment, our environment and our past events, whether it be super traumatic or super weird or anything like that. And so, because I've been learning a lot more of that and have met so many more people, either at church or in public. I've met strangers. I've heard of people through family members and other friends about how many people are going through something like that. And it's been very eye-opening. And it's not even that I didn't know this was happening before. It's just it was never in my around, like, it was never personal to me. Even though my sister has a very serious autoimmune condition, I still couldn't fully understand it because it was her. She's the one who had it. Now I have one, and not only that, I have a very visible one. You can see my legs, and you see in my hands and my face. It's so visible that when I go outside, some people no, which I should say this. No one's ever judged me for this, and I'm like, thank goodness for that. No one has ever judged me. If anything, people are concerned for me. People come when they say hi, we talk. They eventually ask because they're genuinely concerned and they're genuinely curious as to what it is and how. Even I've even and they've even been like, some of them even complimented me on my attitude, which honestly, I can only attribute to God, because that's the only way I can actually be still be happy and still be have energy with all this going on. Because my goodness, I was losing my mind with all this going on. So I can only say thank God for that. And so yeah, that's what I've learned. And I've also even been reminded of this verse that I actually used to call my favorite two verses. And this verses in Proverbs, which many of you probably know, for those who are Christian or such or read the Bible. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." I used to say those were my favorite in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through 6. Then I was not listening to them anymore. And now I'm back here. And I'm glad I'm back here because this is a good reminder for what how I should be thinking. And there was even times where I did remember this, but I didn't go back to the Bible. And I would let my anxiety, or I would feel like my anxiety and my fear, my doom and gloom mindset. I felt like it was so powerful that it didn't matter what the Bible said. And even though I knew that was wrong, or more like I knew that was not truth, that was not the case, and that God didn't want that, I felt like those negative thoughts were more powerful than this. And that if I even thought, if my thoughts can be this negative, then I must be too far gone, because why haven't the thoughts gone away? Why can't I stop thinking of that? And I'm glad to not be in a cycle anymore. So thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your night, because I'm filming this in the evening. And see you guys next time. Bye. And that's when I stop it.